Program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Julian Wong, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the December 14th, 2025 issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. A natural pairing. Baranski has an intimate connection to A Christmas Carol. New York. Christine Baranski could not actually get her mitts on the small book, but she got a charge from being just inches away. She was at the Morgan Library and Museum, getting a close look at Charles Dickens' original manuscript for A Christmas Carol. "You should warn people," she said jokingly. "There's an electric shock." She now has an intimate connection to A Christmas Carol through her collaboration with the Skylark Vocal Ensemble. On a recent recording with the group, she reads the text, and the members sing, well, carols. They will perform live versions at the Morgan on December 18th, as well as at Breaker's Mansion in Newport, Rhode Island, the following day. Skylark has been experimenting with narrative forms for the past decade. We're trying to bring stories into programs, to give choral music a new context, said Matthew Gard, the ensemble's artistic director. A program in 2020, for example, featured two classical fairy tales, The Little Mermaid and Snow White. When he and composer Benedict Sheehan decided to do a sequel of sorts to that project, an obvious theme quickly emerged. Choral music is never more interesting and powerful than at Christmas time for many people, Gard said. So it was like, we need a Christmas story. And of course, few were more popular than Dickens' tale of the redemption of the cold-hearted miser, Ebenezer Scrooge. Gard edited the story's text from 30,000 words down to about 5,000. Then he and Sheehan picked carols. And Sheehan worked on the arrangements and underscoring. "When you're in this alternate future where Tiny Tim has died," Gard said by way of an example, Benedict chose the Coventry Carol, which is this haunting carol about Herod slaying little children. Baranski was a natural choice for a narrator. "For one," she said, "I can relate to the story. I'm always a mean mom. I'm kind of grinchy." Mind you, she was referring to her roles in such holiday movies as Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square, in which her character hands out eviction notes. Still, it's worth noting that few women have performed as Scrooge, and Baranski's honeyed mezzo-soprano particularly shines when she gets to his parts. More important, she has deep musical roots. Baranski was born in Buffalo and raised in Cheektowaga. "I grew up listening to choral music because both my mother and father were singers in Polish groups that every year had a concert of Polish music and American music," she said. Although she is best known for the series The Good Fight and The Gilded Age, Baranski can more than carry a tune, with credits like the Encore's production of Follies and Sweeney Todd at the Kennedy Center, and the film adaptation of Mamma Mia. Something about the combination of spoken word and music especially touches her. "I thought I could just do this for the rest of my career," Baranski said of narrating a performance of Beethoven's Egmont with the Orpheus Chamber Orchestra at Carnegie Hall 2 years ago. Baranski and Skylark recorded their Christmas Carol album at the Church of the Redeemer in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts. For her, reading the Dickens text was easier than doing the audiobook for Shy, The Alarmingly Outspoken Memoirs of Mary Rogers, by New York Times culture correspondent Jesse Green. When it's a first person, it's just you talking the whole time, and you have to keep generating your own energy, she said. Whereas with this, I'm setting the tone, modulating her intonation to suggest different characters. She added, "Suddenly there's this voice, and suddenly there's that voice." In the process, she essentially became a member of Skylark. "Although I don't sing here, my voice is, in a way, a musical instrument," Baranski said. "When I'm working with Matthew, he's conducting me as much as he's conducting the singers." During the recording session, Gard would suggest, say, a bit more legato. "That's a wonderful thing for an actor to work in tandem with a musician," she said. "I was in service to the music rather than vice versa." Gard, though, said that it's kind of unclear who's conducting who. "We were so inspired by her approach to character that the carols have totally different musical influences," he added. "We took this recording in very different directions stylistically, with each carol trying to live up to her character voices." You can see why Baranski's role in The Gilded Age, the Grand Dowager Agnes von Regen, has been such a breakout. Preternaturally elegant and dry-humored, she looked right at home ambling around the Morgan Library's opulent rooms. The institution has been home to A Christmas Carol, which was published in 1843 since John Pierpont Morgan purchased the manuscript around 1900. For about the past half-century, the library has exhibited it during the holidays, each time open to a different page. This year, visitors can look at Dickens' revisions in chicken scratch handwriting on page 9 until January 11th. "I've talked with people who remember seeing it as a child, and now they bring their children and grandchildren," said Philip Palmer, the library's Robert H. Taylor curator and department head of literary and historical manuscripts. Dickens' story has long been a holiday favorite, but its redemptive arc of a ruthless man whose eyes finally open to the misery and poverty around him seems to hit especially hard during times of economic uncertainty. "It's very good timing, as we're withholding food stamps from people in need," Baranski said. "That kind of stinginess is still existing in the world, and also income inequality and all those issues. That's why I think The Gilded Age is fascinating to people. They were robber barons, but the difference, I think, is that they had a lot of money, and they also cared about culture and giving back. And so we have the libraries and museums and concert halls that these men gave." Surveying Morgan's library and study, Baranski marveled at the rich brocades and walls lined with leather-bound books. "We're living in such a fast, image-driven world, but you're in slow time when you're in a great museum or library," she said. "You can feel yourself just go to that quieter place where I think all great art and creativity live." Movies. The best and worst of this year's new Netflix Christmas rom-coms. Naughty or nice. Once again, it's time to festoon ourselves with garlands, fire up the twinkle lights, and examine the very special cinematic universe that is Netflix Christmas movies. This year brings 4 new ones, filled with holiday sweaters and adorable, if sparsely stocked, retail establishments. Seriously, this is a sort of a theme. I watched and rated them all. Now, will somebody please bring me a frosted cookie and some eggnog? Happy holidays to us all. A Merry Little Xmas. The premise. Kate Alicia Silverstone and Everett Oliver Hudson, long married parents of 2 mostly grown-up children, are getting divorced. But Kate, who is kind of a lot, is determined that they will still celebrate their traditional family Christmas together. These plans are affected when Kate learns about Everett's frighteningly chic girlfriend, Tessa, Jamila Jamil, who cheerfully points out that this whole situation is like the movie The Holiday, except in that movie, the ex-wife is dead. Mary Mary. The setting: the fictional, snow-laden town of Winterlight, Vermont, and it absolutely looks like a Norman Rockwell painting. Somebody observes that living there is like growing up in a Yankee Candle. Kate lives in a gingerbread house come to life that everyone refers to as the mothership for some reason. The town also boasts the world's most adorable hardware store, which does not appear to actually stock any hardware. The Naughty: the screenplay, which makes Kate a mess of contradictions. This woman is so eco-conscious she won't let her kids shop retail, and yet lives in an enormous house lit top to bottom with Christmas lights. To Silverstone's credit, she mostly sells this character. It's as if Cher from Clueless, 30 years later, moved to Vermont and got obsessed with found object Christmas decor. The Nice: Kate and Everett's cute habit of calling each other Betty and Al, it's a Paul Simon thing, and Kate's impressive collection of holiday aprons. Actually, a lot of this movie is pretty cute, approaching the platonic ideal of a Netflix holiday movie. Also delightful, a person who gets to deliver a line beginning, "As the mayor of Winterlight and your friend," and then goes on to give romantic advice. I'm going to start saying this myself when delivering advice. The decor: perfect small town charm, right down to the ever-falling snow and the many, many artfully lit swags in Kate's home. Rating: 3.5 candles. Jingle Bell Heist. The premise: a pair of cute small-time thieves, Sophie, Olivia Holt, and Nick, Connor Swindles, plot to rob the posh London department store where Sophie works as a clerk. Call it a holiday-themed Ocean's 2. Their plans seem ambitious, particularly as Sophie and Nick don't seem like the brightest bulbs on the Christmas tree. But hey, robbing the Louvre in real life apparently wasn't that hard, was it? And of course, they end up falling for each other, because it's that kind of movie. The setting: London at Christmas time, where the streets are bustling and jingle bells are ringing. Much of the action takes place at Sterling's, a fictional and not entirely plausible department store, whose main sales floor seems curiously empty of merchandise. The Naughty: this movie does not have the courage of its convictions, if that is something that can be said for a Netflix Christmas movie, and we quickly learn that Sophie and Nick aren't really thieves, but nice people who have had bad things happen to them. Which is not as much fun as if they were just sort of evil. Jingle Bell Heist needs more calm in this ROM. The Nice: I appreciated the sprightly costume details, such as Nick and Sophie dressing for the heist in cutely coordinated striped outfits for some reason, or the hat worn by the store owner's scheming wife, Lucy Punch, that makes her look as if her head is surrounded by tiny black birds in flight. Also charming, Nick's flatmate Ralph, Michael Salami, who wears a wizard's hat decorated in tinsel and makes random comments like, "You ever been to a mass gathering of Shreks?" The decor: despite Sterling's lack of product inventory, it is very nicely decorated with elaborate trees and lights everywhere. Rating: 2.5 candles. Champagne problems. The premise: Sydney, Minka Kelly, a high-powered executive with extremely selective lactose intolerance, yes, I'm sorry, this is an actual plot point, is in Paris over the holiday to land a storied champagne account, but finds out, as one does, that Henry, the cute Parisian Tom Wozniacki, with whom she had a romantic fling the night before her, is actually the son of the champagne company's founder. Oops. The setting: Two settings, both of them delightful. Paris, drenched in sparkling lights and a subdued French version of holiday cheer, and the Champagne mogul's picturesque chateau in the country, dusted in snow and looking like a Christmas card. The naughty. Sydney and Henry are, alas, extremely boring, particularly since this movie insists on surrounding them with minor characters who are far more entertaining. And why is Sydney, on the night before the most important meeting of her professional life, running around Paris, buying American self-help books and tilting her head cutely at Henry? The nice. I am delighted to inform you that this movie includes a very photogenic dog in a Santa outfit. Not to mention an excellent villain, he's a scheming colleague of Sydney's who has the sort of wickedly precise blonde highlights that signal a dark heart. The decor. Fairly restrained as Netflix holiday movies go, the halls of that chateau are tastefully decked, but not over the top. Bonus points, though, for a scene involving light-strewn, horse-drawn carriages, and for the extremely well-distributed snow. French snow is, apparently, a bit more stylish than American snow. Rating. 3 candles. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Sunday Gusto, from the Buffalo News, on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. My Secret Santa. The premise. A single mother named Taylor Alexandra Breckenridge, who has lost her job as a cookie inspector and is desperate to earn money to pay for her daughter to attend an elite snowboarding academy, disguises herself as an older man in order to get a job playing Santa at a resort hotel. In other words, kind of a holiday version of Mrs. Doubtfire. And, because this is a Netflix rom-com, Taylor meets a blandly handsome fellow named Matthew, Ryan Eggold, who has excellent taste in overcoats, and who turns out to be the manager of the resort. Complications. The setting. The fictional Sun Peaks, a reasonably posh ski resort in a generic mountain town somewhere. The naughty. Well, there's a scene where someone thinks Santa is having an encounter in a bathroom stall, but it all turns out quite innocently. It's part of a lengthy, fast costume change sequence that's a complete ripoff of Mrs. Doubtfire, just not as funny. Really nothing about this movie makes any sense. Taylor is some sort of former rock star. Matthew is the son of the resort owner, but a free spirit. Taylor's teenager is an angelic creature from outer space who just wants her mom to be happy. But ho ho ho. The nice. Kudos to the makeup department for turning Breckenridge into a reasonably plausible and extremely twinkly Santa. And to spin that Tia Mowry as a scheming colleague, someone in every Netflix Christmas movie is required to be a schemer, puts on the line, this man is an imposter, like she's been waiting to deliver it for years. And really, Matthew's overcoat game is very solid. The decor. This movie very weirdly takes place in what appears to be an actual universe. Taylor's single mom apartment is quite modest and barely holiday decorated at all. And the resort hotel is your basic bland corporate box with a few garlands and department store Christmas trees thrown in. Which means this movie, though realistic, is an abject failure as a Netflix Christmas movie despite the presence of Santa. I'm sorry, but I need to be firm here. A Netflix Christmas movie needs to have warm, white string lights and festive swags of greenery everywhere, so much so that you fear that these fictional people's electric bill and or the denuded shrubbery they left behind. I do not make up these rules, friends. I merely enforce them. 2 candles. Things to do. Christmas events continue with Cirque du Soleil. The holidays are still front and center in this week's events, music, and movies. Here's a look at some of them. 'Twas the Night Before by Cirque du Soleil. Performances run from December 17th to 28th in Shays Buffalo Theater, 646 Main Street. For more than 200 years, the reading of Clement Clarke Moore's "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" has been a tradition for many families. But as it happens, kids can sometimes feel they are too grown up for the classic story. That's the basis for this production. The first Christmas show from Cirque du Soleil. A jaded girl named Isabella doesn't want to read the story anymore with her dad. But when the two are separated by a snowstorm, the poem comes to life as she takes a journey with whimsical characters, reindeer, children, and acrobats to reunite with him and rediscover holiday magic. There are 18 shows, including multiple weekend matinees. It is 85 minutes long, without intermission. Joshua Vacanti and Friends, 7 p.m., December 18th, at the Lockport Palace Theater, 2 East Avenue, Lockport. Joshua Vacanti, a Lockport native who grew to national prominence during season 21 of The Voice, brings his third annual hometown holiday variety concert to the Palace Theater. Joining him are Sydney Sturlis, another local singer from The Voice, soprano Karen D'Angelo, Mercedes Wilson, Stephen Ott, Regine Denise, Sam Olunik, and the Diane Mulvey Dancers. Tickets are $10. The Room and Big Shark with Tommy Wiseau, December 19th and 20th at the North Park Theater, 1428 Hurdle Avenue. Buffalo loves Tommy Wiseau, and the cult filmmaker loves us back. For the past few years, Wiseau, the man behind the 2003 cult film The Room, and the subject of the 2017 James Franco feature film The Disaster Artist, has appeared with his film at the North Park Theater. He's doing that again, this time also showing his 2023 film Big Shark, about 3 firefighters trying to save New Orleans from a massive shark. Buy a ticket for the screening you want to attend, then arrive about 30 minutes early to meet Wiseau, get an autograph, and photo. There's also a Q&A with him at each movie. Screenings of The Room are at 7 p.m. December 19th and 20th. Big Shark is shown at 10 p.m. December 19th and 20th. Twang Gang Holiday Thang, 3 to 6 p.m. December 20th at the Sportsman's Tavern, 326 Amherst Street. Join the Twang Gang, along with John and Mary and the Valkyries, and the Borderland Band Camp All-Stars for this holiday show. Proceeds help the Sportsman Americana Music Foundation in providing instruments for 2 children. Admission is $15 general and $10 for SAMF members. Tribute concert for Stephen Perry, 8 p.m., December 20th at Mohawk Place, 47 East Mohawk Street. Those who knew Stephen Perry would call him one of the kindest and most talented men you could know. His death in September left our artistic community mourning the loss of the passionate singer, guitarist, songwriter, and artist who performed with such bands as Veil, Zigzag, and The Sins. In his honor, his friends have put together this night of rock and memories. Performing are Sons of Ghidorah, Exam Priory, Virus X, and a reunion by Zigzag. Doors open at 7 p.m. Admission is $10 for this all-ages show. Sandy Claus, Klaus and Effect. Claus and Effect. 8 p.m. December 20th in the 9th Ward at Babeville, 341 Delaware Avenue. Veteran comedian Kristen Becker returns to Buffalo to play Sandy Claus, a character described as Santa's older, gayer, drunken sister. This stand-up show promises to give an unfiltered take on 2025 headlines with a warped North Pole perspective. The show also gives Becker another chance to help the community by raising funds for the Query Canal, a new Buffalo-based nonprofit helping LGBTQ plus individuals. Doors open at 7 p.m. General admission, seated tickets, are $20 in advance with $25 day of show. Quick calendar. Big Bad Voodoo Daddy's Wild and Swinging Holiday Party, 7:30 p.m. December 16th at the West Her Riviera Theater, North Tonawanda. Swinging arrangements of holiday classics and original songs. The Eagles Christmas Experience. Eagles Tribute Concert, doors at 6:30 p.m., show at 7:30 p.m., December 19th at the Lockport Palace Theater, 2nd East Avenue in Lockport. Last Chance Holiday Sip and Shop. Noon to 5 p.m. December 20th at Queen City Meadery, 290 Center Road in West Seneca, with multiple vendors including Vintage Soul Designs, Butterfly Cupcakes, Lulu Creations, and Tempest Fugit Design. Holiday movies at the Screening Room Cinema Cafe, Amherst. It's a Wonderful Life at 7:30 p.m. December 16th and 19th. 1 and 7:30 p.m. December 20th. 7:30 p.m. December 23rd. Scrooge at 5 p.m. December 20th and 23rd. Totally Sweet Buffalo Procrastinators shopping event. 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. December 20th at Buffalo River Works. Taste. A savory 2 Michelin star meal. The view from inside restaurant Pearl Morissette in Jordan Station, Ontario, which received 2 Michelin stars and was ranked as the best restaurant in Canada. Canada's Pearl Morissette is dinner as theatre. Jordan Station, Ontario. Under a silvery sky, down a gravel road flanked by heavy machinery, greenhouses, and cows with names like Mona Lisa, the restaurant emerges. It's a pearl in a clamshell, this fine dining restaurant on a working farm. Restaurant Pearl Morissette's dining room, visible through 6 panes of glass, cut from the second floor of an inky black barn, is warm and glowing. It is bound to be an experience. 12 courses endorsed by 2 prestigious Michelin stars await. This year, Restaurant Pearl Morissette received the highest culinary honor, a Michelin star, actually 2 Michelin stars. It was also named the 3rd best restaurant in North America, according to a recent ranking by World's 50 Best, and the number 1 best restaurant in Canada, as decided by Canada's 100 Best Restaurants. And it is close by, a 45-minute drive across the border from downtown Buffalo. Restaurant Pearl Morissette is dinner as theater. The fixed 12-course menu, which changes with the seasons, is the script. The dishes are the actors. The servers are both stage crew and pit orchestra. The kitchen writes and directs. Making a dinner reservation is similar to buying a ticket to a sold-out play. New reservations release every couple of months and sell out within minutes. The next round opens at noon, January 22nd, for dinner in March and April. I set an alarm for noon on the day reservations opened for late winter. By the time I checked the website around 12:05 p.m., nearly everything was booked. There was a random Thursday in November still available, which is how I found myself there for Thanksgiving dinner. For most of us, for whom $200, the rough cost per person of the dinner before drinks, is a lot of money, a dinner at Restaurant Pearl Morissette is as special as attending a Broadway show. The restaurant knows and welcomes this. For all of its glory, it is not a pretentious place. There's no gimmick here. None of the foods were elaborate for the sake of elaboration. At the end of the day, the output of this craft is human delight, said chef and owner Daniel Hadida. He described the restaurant's appeal as theatrical, immersive storytelling. The 12 courses, each artful on ceramic dishes, some made in East Aurora by Peach Pit Pottery, includes bits of beef tartare, venison, lobster, and striped bass. Course 2 was a tubular carrot cracker filled with a scallop roe pate. It was essentially a savory Pyroline stick, or as chef/owner Eric Robertson said, chips and dip. A black koji marinated slice of pork was paraded around the dining room to drum up anticipation before it was served for course 9. Other courses featured caviar and lobster pearls, pops of bright colors and edible flowers and herbs. A quenelle-shaped scoop of herbaceous lavage sorbet came in a warm marshmallow-like custard with strawberries. Warm Madeleine cookies came tucked in a napkin like two bodies under a quilt in bed. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. The drinks list included glasses of Riesling, Chardonnay, and Cabernet Franc, produced from grapes grown on Pearl Morissette's vines and fermented underneath the restaurant. The house-made Amaro had the same caramelized black koji from the pork dish. It tasted like spicy chocolate syrup. At the end of the meal, the restaurant hands you a small folder the color of a robin's egg. Inside is your bill and a syllabus for the evening, listing the ingredients for each course. It reads like a poem. Baby brassica, peach leaf, Bambi gem, juniper sabayon. Asterisks indicate that a specific ingredient was grown on the farm surrounding the restaurant. There are around 25 different asterisks. Whatever food isn't grown on site comes from small farms and fishermen across Canada or is foraged in local forests. For example, the restaurant uses a foraged herb called prickly ash to mimic lemon's citrus flavor, because lemons don't grow in Canada, and so Pearl Morissette doesn't use them. The restaurant also has a Michelin Green Star for gastronomy and sustainability. When I was working and spending time overseas, you saw different regions that were being pushed up by the local farmers, Robertson said. I remember thinking, I can't wait to try that when I get back to Canada. Robertson zipped up a puffer jacket to give a brief tour of the farm. He spoke of life before Michelin stars, when he was a kid in a small Ontario town who was bad at school and who found belonging in a fine dining kitchen. It was a nice way of feeling unique. Maybe some teenagers dye their hair or something. I got cooking, Robertson said. My family didn't go out to eat at, or didn't have the money for, these kinds of restaurants. He pointed to rutabagas and spinach in one of the greenhouses. A black and white cat, one of 20 that run around the farm hunting mice and voles, stretched nearby. To me, it was cool. It was like a different world, Robertson said, and I didn't get bored. Food events. The Terrace at Delaware Park, 199 Lincoln Parkway, is hosting a 5-course New Orleans Creole and French wine pairing dinner at 6 p.m. December 17th. Tickets are $125, and there will also be live holiday jazz. Magic Bear Beer Cellar, 799 Seneca Street, is holding a 4-course chocolate and beer tasting dinner at 6:30 p.m. December 17th. Tickets are $35. Books. Niche nonfiction. Find the perfect book that speaks to their interests. Birding, photography, the great outdoors, Big Macs. Chances are good there's a nonfiction book out there to suit just about anybody on your holiday gift list. Some ideas. For your puzzlers, imagine, if you will, a world without mobile phones, the internet, or the New York Times, digital or print. Would your favorite puzzler survive? The good folks at the Times have something perfect to put in the bunker: Puzzlemania. It's a stylish hardcover book full of Wordle, connections, spelling bee, minis, and more, by a lead Times puzzle editor. Contemporary art: painting, collage, photography, sculpture, performance. Derek Adams has embraced them all in a career spanning more than 25 years. His first monograph, Derek Adams, includes 150 works that explore Black American culture and his own identity. Portraiture abounds. There's joy, leisure, and resilience in everyday experiences and self-reflection, with a little humor on board. Steph Curry inspiration. Being shot ready requires practice, training, and repetition, but it rewards that work with an unmatched feeling of transcendence. That's Golden State Warrior Steph Curry in his new book, Shot Ready. The basketball star takes his readers from rookie to veteran, accompanied by inspiring words and photos. One doesn't have to be into basketball to feel the greatness. The American West. The photographer Frank S. Matsuura died in 1913, but his work lives on in a hefty archive. He was a Japanese immigrant who chronicled life in Alaska and the Okanagan region of Washington state. He operated a photo studio frequented by the indigenous people of the region. Many of those portraits are included in Frank S. Matsuura, iconoclast photographer of the American West. The Gift of Bird Chatter. Cheeseburger, Cheeseburger. The handy little book, Bird Talk, seeks to make identifying bird calls fun and accessible without heavy phonetic descriptors or birder lingo. Becca Rowland, who wrote and illustrated, offers funny, bite-sized ways to identify calls using what's already in our brains. Hence, the black-capped chickadee goes cheeseburger, cheeseburger. Mocktails and cocktails. David Burtka is sober. His husband, Neil Patrick Harris, imbibes. Together, they love to throw parties. This elfin book, Both Sides of the Glass, includes easy-to-follow cocktail and mocktail recipes with commentary from Harris, who took mixology lessons out of sheer love of a good drink. It's a book, it's a burger. This tome with a cover design that evokes a Big Mac is a country-by-country work of journalism that earned 2 2025 James Beard Awards for Gary He, a writer and photographer who previously freelanced for the Associated Press and self-published the book. He toured the world visiting McDonald's restaurants to do his research for McAtlas, a global guide to the Golden Arches. As social anthropology goes, it serves. Yosemite Love. From the cute but ferocious river otter to the gliders of the night, the Humboldt's flying squirrel, this striking book is the first comprehensive work in more than a century dedicated entirely to the park's animal kingdom. Yosemite Wildlife, the wonder of animal life in California's Sierra Nevada, includes more than 300 photos and covers 150 plus species. By Beth Pratt, with photos by Rob Hirsch. Samin Nosrat's new book. Samin Nosrat lays herself bare in this long-awaited second book from the chef and author of the acclaimed Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. Her first book was 17 years in the making. In its wake, she explains in Good Things with struggle, including overwhelming loss with the deaths of several people close to her. Here, she rediscovers why she, or anybody, cooks in the first place. The recipes are simple, her observations helpful. You can taste the joy in every bite. Chappelle Roan. She struggled in the music game for years until 2024 made her a star. Chappelle Roan, with her drag queen style, big vocals, and queer pride, has a shiny Grammy for Best New Artist. Now, in time for the holidays, there's a sweet little book that tells her origin story. Chappelle Roan, The Rise of a Midwest Princess. With text contributions from Jennifer Keeshan Armstrong, Dibbs Bear, Patrick Crowley, Izzy Grinspan, Jenna Jefferson, Ilana Kaplan, and Samantha Olson. Harst Home. Snoop's Homemade Edibles. For edible-loving weed enthusiasts, Snoop Dogg's Treats to Eat offers 55 recipes that can be done with or without the weed. The connoisseur includes tips on how to use your goods for everything from tinctures to gummies, cookies to can butter, perhaps a loaded milkshake or buttermilk pancakes with stoner syrup. A style muse. With her effortless beauty and tousled hair and fringe, Jane Birkin easily transitioned from her swinging London roots in the early 1960s to a cultural and style muse for decades. She lent a bohemian charm to everything she did, from acting to singing to liberal activism. And she famously was the muse for the Hermes Birkin bag. The new Jane Birkin, icon of style, encompasses all of Birkin. More Taylor Swift. All of those Easter eggs, all those songs. It's Taylor Swift's world, and we're just eyes and ears taking it all in. Swift has been everywhere of late with her engagement to Travis Kelce, her Eras tour, and now the life of a showgirl. Add to the pile Taylor Swift All the Songs, a guide to the lyrics, genesis, production, and secret messages of every single song, excluding showgirl tracks. Christmas baking Gilded Age style. Sugar plums, they're a thing. Fans of the Gilded Age are well aware and will eat up the Gilded Age Christmas cookbook. It includes treats from the era, some culinary history, and a lot of charm. For the record, sugar plums date to the 1600s, when they were basically just sugar. By the Gilded Age, started roughly in the late 1800s. They were made from chopped dried figs, nuts, powdered sugar, and brandy. Yes, please. Forever Flowers. Noah Crafter, Noah Flower Lover. In Everlasting Blooms, floral artist Layla Robinson offers more than 25 projects focused on the use of dried flowers. She includes a festive flower crown, table displays, wreaths, and arrangements with buds and branches. Her step-by-step guidance is easy to follow. Robinson also instructs how to forage and how to dry flowers. Michelle Obama's style. A brown polyester dress with a plaid skirt and a Peter Pan collar. That's the very first fashion statement Michelle Obama can remember making, circa kindergarten. It was up, and away from there, style-wise. The former First Lady is out with a photo-packed book, The Look, taking us behind the scenes of her style and beauty choices. Television. Some movies are best on big screen, others fine at home. The expression, good things come to those who wait, came to mind when NBC's streaming service Peacock began carrying Downton Abbey, the grand finale, on November 7th. That was less than 2 months after it premiered in theaters September 12th, and about a month after it began airing via pay-per-view. I didn't wait. I plucked down 1999 to watch the film with my wife on my 70-inch screen at home a few weeks before Peacock, a service I subscribed to, began carrying it. We're Downton fans and thought the grand finale was, well, just grand. At the time, I thought $19.99 was a bargain, since 2 tickets at a movie theater can cost $25 or more, even with the senior discount. That isn't counting the obligatory popcorn at another $11 or $12 a pop, or water to wash it down for another $9 or so. At least popcorn is obligatory when I go to the movies. I usually get the bucket so I can bring home the free refill and eat popcorn, even if it is stale, for the next few days. The decision to watch the grand finale at home rather than at a theater with strangers prompted me to list the pluses and minuses, in addition to cost, of watching movies at home. It seems to be a relevant question now that the big Thanksgiving and Christmas movies are arriving. Additionally, Netflix co-chief executive officer Ted Sarandos has sparked a debate because of this quote. What is the consumer trying to tell us? That they'd like to watch movies at home, thank you. The studios and the theaters are duking it out over trying to preserve this 45-day window that is completely out of step with the consumer experience of just loving a movie. You were listening to a reading of articles and features from the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. In my view, the decision of whether to watch at home or in a theater depends on the scope of the movie. I would rather watch Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein on a bigger screen at a movie theater to take in all the cinematography than watch it on Netflix, even on my 70-inch TV at home. I came to that conclusion watching Frankenstein with my brother and some of our closest 500 or so friends at the Toronto Film Festival in September. We thought it was spectacular to look at, but didn't love it as much as most critics did. My brother and I watched 15 films over 4 days at TIFF, which I believe is evidence of how much we love movies. But not all movies need a big screen. My wife and I saw the Bruce Springsteen movie, Deliver Me from Nowhere, starring Jeremy Allen White as the boss, in a movie theater the day before it officially opened. It is the kind of small movie that doesn't need a big screen. We are both Springsteen fans. Leaving the theater, I could tell we had different opinions about the film that explored Springsteen's difficult experiences with his father and the boss's bouts with depression. She loved it. I thought it was boring. There is no right or wrong in opinions about movies. In hindsight, I could have easily waited for Deliver Me to be available on one of the streaming sites I subscribed to one of the streaming sites I subscribed to watch at home. There are benefits to watching films at home besides the lower cost, especially during Buffalo winters. The main one is you don't have to drive anywhere, which can be key to avoiding snowstorms. You can also pause a long film like Frankenstein. It is 2.5 hours, and Wicked for good, 2 hours 17 minutes, to go to the bathroom if necessary. And you can also make your own popcorn. If you're married and have young children, you don't have to hire a babysitter, which I'm told can cost $15 to $20 an hour these days. At that rate, a couple will have to spend $100 or more to go to the movies. You can talk to the person you are watching a movie with and not be considered rude. I get really annoyed hearing people talk during the movies, as though they are watching in their own home. It is almost as though they don't see or hear the announcement before the film begins to be silent. Or they just don't care. But there also can be a downside to watching at home. It isn't a night out, and being a TV critic, the last thing I need to do is watch more productions at home. Sometimes you need to escape the house, especially in the Buffalo winter, or else you may fall victim to cabin fever. The popcorn at the theater usually tastes better than the popcorn you make at home. You also get to be the cool one who saw a film before any of your friends. There also is something about the shared experience of watching a film with strangers. Comedies are funnier watching with a crowd. Horror films are more scary watching with a crowd. Love stories are more romantic with a crowd. Okay, that last claim may be stretching it a bit. All those things considered, I usually prefer, with exceptions, to go to movie theaters to watch films. But if the person next to me starts talking loudly, be warned, I can turn into Frankenstein. On gardening. Snow in the forecast. After the last winter season, I started following several weather forecast gurus. They all seem to be on the sensationalist side of journalism, but it makes it a lot of fun. It keeps me second guessing whether the collapse of the polar vortex is a good thing or a bad thing. As a horticulturist, I know one thing, and that is that snow is in the winter forecast. I made sure of that in September. As you can guess, I'm talking about plants, and indeed, I am referring to Snow Princess lobellaria, or Sweet Alyssum. I first saw Snow Princess in 2009 at the California Pack Trials, and a month or so later, they were put in the Mississippi Medallion Plant Trials at the Truck Crops Branch Experiment Station in Crystal Spring, Mississippi. So you can see, I've already mentioned planting in the spring and the fall in the Deep South. 6 or 7 months ago, I wrote in this column about snow for the summer. It has won 113 awards from north to south and east to west. The tag says cold hardy to zone 9, but I have never lost one to cold temperatures in zone 8. It is natural in mixed containers and yet is a tiger as a monoculture with the ability to reach 16 inches in height and spread to 4 feet, perfect as a floral ground cover. In September, I planted Snow Princess in mixed containers throughout the landscape. By October, they were already making a colorful impact. Their fragrant blossoms with their sweet aroma permeating the garden were bringing in all sorts of bees, and a pleasant surprise is that American lady butterflies always seem to visit. Snow Princess Sweet Alyssum needs plenty of sun to live up to its potential. If you have part sun, don't fret. You'll still garner the Green Thumb Award. Next prerequisite is good drainage. This is normally not an issue in mixed containers with drainage holes and good potting soil. Raised beds with fertile soil typically drain well if you can build their beds with prepared raised bed mixes. Can you imagine, with Snow Princess Sweet Alyssum, with Supertunia Vista bubblegum in a raised bed, how many hundreds of awards that combo represents? Late October, one container looked like a spring bouquet with Snow Princess Sweet Alyssum, Supertunia Mini Vista Yellow, and the new Supertunia Mini Vista Pink Cloud petunias. In other containers, blue shows out with the white. Superbell's Grape Punch Calabrachois and Supertunia Mini Vista Indigo petunias seem to electrify the combination. Or is it the contrast of the white? Here I am in early December, and my favorite container features a combination of luscious marmalade lantana, Superbell's Pomegranate Punch Calabrachoa, Supertunia Mini Vista Ultramarine Petunia, and Snow Princess Sweet Alyssum. My love for the flaming orange will cause a dilemma, and that the lantana will return from the winter, but not look vibrant through the winter in my region. You can plant it whenever you find it for sale in Zone 8 and warmer. I find myself usually trimming or cutting back in summer to jumpstart fresh fall growth. I don't know about the predictions on the vortex, but we are going to have snow at the garden guy's house thanks to the Snow Princess lobellaria. How sweet it is. Try nesting your dishes silverware. Boiling eggs. Dear Heloise, the simplest way to boil eggs is to put your eggs in a pan of unheated water, then bring the water to a boil. At this point, the eggs are roughly the same temperature as the water and are ready to eat if you like soft-boiled eggs. To firm up the egg yolk, turn the burner off and let the eggs stay in the hot water. They will continue to cook to the hardness you like. Maybe wait for a minute or two, then pour the water off and let the eggs cool until you are ready to eat. I believe this to be the most effective and predictable way to cook your eggs. Thanks for all your hints. Keith in Lincoln, Nebraska. Scare away scam calls. Dear Heloise, I just read the hint from Louis R. in St. Paul, Minnesota about stringing along an obvious phone scam. I've done something similar, but what I've said is, oh, I'm so glad someone called me. I'm so lonely. It usually results in the caller quickly hanging up. And come to think of it, I haven't had any scam calls since. Jane L. in Rutland, Vermont. Medication storage. Dear Heloise, I am writing about the delivery man who stole medication after asking to use the restroom while installing a dishwasher. What I do with my prescription drugs is this. I do not put them in the restroom cabinet. I have them in my bedroom in a box. Hope this hint gets printed. Connie in Sheridan, Wyoming. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the December 14th, 2025 issue of the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News. We read from the Sunday Gusto from the Buffalo News every Sunday at noon. Your reader has been Julian Wong. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the front section of the Sunday Times. At 2 o'clock, we have the New York Times Opinion section. And at 3 o'clock, we have the New York Times Arts and Leisure section. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. If you're listening to this publication online, you're probably using our website, a podcast player like Spotify or iTunes, a streaming service like Siro, or a smart speaker. Did you know that we now have a dedicated app that can be downloaded to any mobile device, like a smartphone or tablet, for free? App users can conveniently access our live stream and any episode of our podcast easier than ever. To download the app, just type NFRRS in the search window in the Apple App Store or in the Google Play Store. Contact us anytime if you have any questions by calling 716-821-5555, extension 5. Thank you. You're listening to the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. As of this year, our agency has broadcast more than 300,000 hours of radio readings. Volunteer radio readers read newspapers, magazines, and books to area people who are blind or have a print disability, who are provided reading radios. Radio Reading's broadcast signal is provided at no charge by WNED. Radio Reading broadcasts from studios at 1199 Harlem Road in suburban Buffalo. Please let others know about Radio Reading. It's your service. For more information on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, call 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another